Welcome everyone this morning. Our Wheel and Anchor webinar for you today, Taste of Eastern France. This is a journey in Lyon and Burgundy that's happening in the second week of October next year. And as I was saying before, it's part of our France Kaleidoscope program. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight as to what that's all about and what you could expect on a Wheel and Anchor trip to this region of Lyon and Burgundy. So first of all, I just want to give a bit of an intro for those who are new to us. Wheel and Anchor is a travel community that I formed about 3 or 4 years ago. I've been organizing trips for Canadians for the better part of 30 years. It's been a long time, and I've enjoyed every single one of those years, and I've been very fortunate to meet all kinds of people from all across the country and to bring Canadians to all parts of the world. And so Wheel and Anchor was the culmination of all of that. And the one thing I realized through all of those travels I did is that the people who sort of have a like-minded view of traveling and who sort of got to know each other and were acquaintances, we just have a lot more fun when it's people that we have something in common with. And so our mission here at Wheel and Anchor is to bring travelers together. And specifically, for me, I really love it when people become well-traveled and well-connected. So that's my personal goal. And when I say well-traveled, I think back to when I was a kid. I had parents who were very avid travelers. They were away all the time, going all over the world. And of course, they also had friends that were the same. And, when people talk and share their experiences from different parts of the world, the people that they met and the food that they ate, they just occur as being far more worldly and far more insightful into what life is like in different parts of the planet. And so I think it's a wonderful attribute to have and a great life passion. And of course, in doing that, you meet some very interesting people from all around the world. I mean, you can imagine what my Rolodex looks like from all of the amazing people that I've met. And I wish the same for each and every one of you. On our webinar today, as usual, my name is Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I'm joined by Paula, whom you saw on the screen a few minutes ago. She is our senior trip specialist and basically deals with all of the bookings and inquiries and so on that we have from our members. And of course, Joel, my colleague, who is the co-founder and does a lot of the work behind the scenes in making this all happen. Today, our plan is to take you guys interested in France on a little culinary journey. I'm going to be your host also for this trip. When we go next year, I will be hosting this trip, and we're going to be taking a look at Lyon and Burgundy and taking you through this program on a day-by-day basis. So before we get into it, just a couple of words. Let me show you the map, first of all, of where we're headed, and then I'll explain to you about what I like about this region and why it is that I think it's a very interesting place to visit. So we're going to be starting in Lyon, and I know a lot of travelers haven't been to Lyon because a lot of people, they go to France and they start their trip or they spend their time in Paris, or they might go down to the south coast of Provence. Is obviously a popular region for touring around France. But people often don't get to Lyon. It's the third largest city. It's situated in the Rhone and the Saône Valley. It's actually the confluence of these two rivers, and also very close by to Annecy and the Savoie region, the Alpine region of France, and of course Burgundy. So there's a lot to do and to see in this area, and so our base will be in Lyon for the whole week. And from here, we can make a short trip to see all these wonderful parts in the area around. What is it about Lyon that makes it so special? Well, first of all, it is widely considered to be the gastronomic capital of France, and not just France. You could argue that it is the gastronomic capital of the world. Some of the best known, French chefs came from or spent their formative years in Lyon, and part of the reason that the food is so good here is because the region itself it produces very, very high quality fruits and vegetables and meats and all of these things. And we'll see some of that as we're touring around the countryside in Burgundy. The cheese as well, if you're into French cheese at all. And, you know, what we normally see in our average grocery store only scratches the surface of what they have in terms of cheese. And they have fresh fish that comes out of the lakes of the Savoie region, and further south in the Rhone Valley around Ardèche is where they get all the fruits and vegetables. So the positioning of Lyon is what makes it such an important place for food. So even the Parisians will hop down on the TGV and come down and have a meal in one of the Michelin star restaurants. So that's one of the reasons, and the most important reason that we're going to focus on that for this part of the tour. So our first day, of course, we're going to arrive in Lyon for those guests for those members who are coming from Canada. You can actually fly to Lyon from Montreal. The Air Canada has nonstop flights from Montreal to Lyon, or using a gateway like one of the other cities like Frankfurt or Amsterdam or London. They have connecting flights into Lyon. Or of course you can fly to Paris and then take the TGV down. And that's what the group who will join us for part one for Normandy, we will travel by TGV, and it's a fascinating way to travel. I'm always envious that we don't have one of those in Canada, but we go 300 kilometers an hour through the French countryside, and from Paris to Lyon, we can do that trip in just about 2 hours. It's if you've never been on a train like that before, it's an experience in and of itself. So we'll arrive in Lyon, and as per normal, we'll meet our local guide there. She's truly lovely, and we're going to have a bit of an orientation. I've chosen a great boutique hotel that is right on this sort of peninsula of land that separates the Saône and the Rhone rivers, so we can walk to almost everything that we want to see in Lyon. It's still a big city. It's not nearly as big as Paris, but there's still some 500,000 people that reside there. And they have a subway system and a great public transit system. But as I say, where we're situated, we should be able to walk to most of the things that we want to do. So we'll have time to rest and relax and get ready for our culinary adventure. The design of this trip, like so many of trips in this series, like our liveaways and our 5x5s, is that, you know, we have a structured part of the trip, but we have lots of time for you to explore on your own. And like I say about so many other places, half of the joy of traveling is just about exploring on your own. And Lyon is one of those cities that's particularly interesting to explore on your own because, for example, one of the things that we see on our first full day, we're going to have a nice walking tour around the city. We'll take the funicular up to the Basilica Notre Dame de Fourvière, which the locals seem to think looks like an upside down elephant. I don't know why they say that. I couldn't figure that one out myself, but that's apparently one of the landmarks. Up on a high plateau above the city is this wonderful basilica. But we'll spend time wandering around the old town. And this is a great activity to do on one of the free days, is because Lyon is also known for their traboules. And the traboules are basically these secret passageways that were created way back in the 14th and 15th century. And they go all through the old part of the town. And there's apparently some 400 of them. And many of them are open for public access. So it's kind of a neat thing to do. Who knows, maybe we'll even do some kind of a scavenger hunt or some kind of a race. I find some of those things that can be really fun, and it's a neat way to explore the city. As I say, so we'll have a great day, a great half day, enjoying the city and some time on our own. And we'll have the first of many great dinners. So the dinner this evening, so we've included roughly half of the lunches and dinners on this program, and we've left the other half open for you to explore, because whenever I say to friends or acquaintances, anybody going to France, I say the best way to eat in France is forget TripAdvisor, but you just want to wander around these small alleys and walk into some little bistro where, you know, you wouldn't normally find it. It's not on any guidebook or anything like that. It probably is, but and just simply go in and let yourself be surprised. Particularly in Lyon, you'll be blown away by the delicacies that you can enjoy for all budgets. I mean, they have everything from very basic restaurants to 3-star Michelin. The food is exquisite. Certainly, I've never had a bad meal in Lyon, and you'll have a great time doing that. So we're going to do the first of a couple of excursions in the area on the third day when we're there. First of all, of course, Burgundy itself, which is to the north of Lyon. And we're going to head up and we're going to focus our trip today on Beaune, which is the capital of Burgundy wines. The city itself is not a city, it's really more of a town, is quite magnificent. And so we'll spend some time wandering around that. The famous Hospice is one of the places that a lot of people have on their agenda when they visit Beaune. But again, because this is a little bit of a foodie tour, we're going to focus on the food, and we'll get to visit the last family-owned mustard mill that is located just outside of Beaune. And we'll see, I mean, you've all heard of Dijon, obviously, that's another city further to the north. But mustard is one of these products that the French pride themselves on from this region. So we'll get a little bit of an insight on how to make mustard. We'll also obviously go and taste some of that wonderful Burgundy wines and learn. And I remember having traveled through this region with guests from Canada before. And, you know, we talk a lot at home about French wine. Half of the liquor store is filled with French wine, of course. But it's really interesting to understand when you're there, when you're in one of these amazing cellars, what the difference is between Bordeaux and Burgundy. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that most Burgundy wines are based on the Pinot Noir grape. So they have a completely different structure and body to the wines that you find Bordeaux, which are more, you know, heavier Cabernet, Merlot, or the grapes that they use. I'm not going to let you in on all that. You got to come along on the trip to find out more about what to expect from Burgundy wines. So after that day, we'll head back, of course, in the evening to Lyon. And the following day, we'll take a trip out to the Savoie region. And you probably have heard the term Savoie before. The Olympics were held in Albertville some time ago. Excuse all the noise in the background. We'll spend a day looking at, in particular, Annecy, which is a beautiful city. It's called, it's sometimes called the Pearl of the Alps, sometimes called the Venice of the Alps, because of all the canals that crisscross through the town. And from here, you'll get some amazing vistas overlooking the French Alps. We'll take a cruise on the lake. It's actually one of the cleanest lakes in all of Europe. And as I say, with all the little towns nestled along the shore of the lake, a brilliant day, a wonderful way to take in a little bit of, as I say, the Savoie region in France. As I mentioned, we'll have some free days during our time in Lyon, and there is tons to do. So on each of the free days that we do in Lyon, you will have a 24-hour city card. So this enables you, like with many cities in Europe, and I find it's one of the very convenient things that they do for visitors, is that with this card, you can use the whole public transit system. You have access to many of the main attractions and sites. You might go and visit the so-called Confluence District, where the Saône and the Rhône rivers come together, and they've transformed this former industrial area into a very trendy, cool, sort of eco-friendly kind of a neighborhood. People who are into art will probably go down to La Croix-Rousse, which is a very narrow street at the bottom of the hill that's full of fascinating art galleries. Personally, I love to go through these different galleries and, you know, sometimes pick up a little knick-knack here or there. So that's probably where you'll find me. But culture lovers might go to, for example, the Lyon Opera House, which has all kinds of performances that go far beyond opera. And if you're a film buff, there's the Institut Lumière, which is where they made the first motion picture back at the end of the 19th century. And so it's some very interesting facts and so on that you'll learn about that. So there's so many things that you can do. You might just want to walk along the banks of the river. It's a very picturesque city just to stroll around. That evening will be absolutely one of the highlights, not just of this week, but of our whole stay in France. We have arranged, or we will be arranging a meal at one of the best restaurants in the city. It's a restaurant that is from quite an up-and-coming chef by the name of Jérémy Galvan. He is a Michelin star chef. We're going to his restaurant. For those of you who were around us back when we were doing print magazines before COVID hit, we did a whole article about France and about Jérémy Galvan. So if you happen to get that, if you were with us back then when we were sending out this magazine, you'll find some interesting stories about an interview I had with Chef Galvan that was back, well over a year ago. No, almost 2 years ago now. My, how time flies. So as I say, that will be a tremendous evening. It'll probably be a 6 or a 7 course tasting menu prepared by Chef Galvan. And it will be undoubtedly one of the most, if you've never done a Michelin star tasting menu before, I tell you, you'll probably want to go again the next day till you see the price tag. No, I'm just kidding. So the following day, quite apropos, we're going to actually have culinary day in Lyon. And here's where we're going to see what is behind some of these great restaurants. And one of the fascinating things that we'll do is visiting a place called Les Halles de Lyon, which is where the famous French chef Paul Bocuse, he's kind of recognized as the founder of Nouvelle Cuisine. And, you can even still see him shopping there sometimes in this market. And we'll go there into some of the other markets, and you really get a sense of the pride of the purveyors and how much importance the French people put on food in their cuisine. And it's remarkable because the markets are really so much different than, in my estimation, than the ones that we have back home. We'll also go to another marketplace called Les Halles de Grand Lieu and taste. This one focuses on French cheeses. So we'll get to try a whole bunch of different cheeses with award-winning bread. And then in the afternoon, as if you haven't had enough already, we'll go into the Vieux Lyon, to the old part of the town, and try pralines and chocolates, and we'll play this very interesting game that allows you to test your palate. So that will be undoubtedly a great day. We didn't put dinner in the program because you're probably not even going to be hungry by the time you finish going through all that. So one more day, another free day in our program, and you can simply enjoy Lyon. And as I said, there is so many things to do, but you could, of course, head out and do another side trip. And one of the ones that I might suggest for those that are interested is we can visit Geneva, which is the principal city in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, located on Lake Geneva, or Lac Léman, as they call it in French. And yeah, Geneva is an interesting town to visit. And again, one that you might not ordinarily make a trip to. Most people going to Switzerland are going to go and see, the Swiss Alps and some of the ski resorts they have there, and Lucerne and Zurich and so on. But Geneva is interesting because, of course, it is, known as the peace capital. There's 20 international organizations that have their head office there, the United Nations, of course, and the Red Cross. So just to be in the aura of all of these very, very important global organizations is fascinating. But the city itself, very picturesque. As you can see here from the photo, the French and the Swiss Alps in the background. They've got this amazing water fountain, the Jet d'eau, in the lake immediately in front of the city center. If you're a science buff, you might make the trip just to see CERN. That's that big, huge particle accelerator that they built. It's 28 kilometers long. It's just outside the city of Geneva. So you can go and certainly spend a couple of hours checking out what that's all about. So lots to do on a side trip to Geneva, or as I say, you might just want to stay and enjoy Lyon, or make a trek out and visit some of the other towns in and around the area. So no shortage of things to do. And of course, I'll be there and our local guide to help you decide what is the best thing for you to do while we're in Lyon. And from there, we will head out the following day on the 8th day after a week there. You'll probably want to stay for another week just to eat some more of the fabulous food. For those continuing on with us to part 3 of our so-called Kaleidoscope program, we'll be heading down to Languedoc-Roussillon, which is in the southwestern part of France. There we'll be doing a trip down the Canal du Midi. As I mentioned, that was a webinar we did 2 weeks ago. So these two programs link up. You can go from Lyon right to a lovely houseboat and we'll sail down the Canal du Midi for a week. So details about that, of course, you'll find on our website, and there's a webinar replay there as well. And then following Canal du Midi, as I mentioned, the last part of our France trip will be Provence and the Côte d'Azur. We'll spend a week near Aix-en-Provence and another few days in the beautiful city of Nice. So that is the various parts of the program. I'll just cover off some of the logistics. Of course, the brochure will be sent out to you at the same time as the webinar replay. That'll happen sometime tomorrow. This segment of the program is available based on double occupancy for $35.90 Canadian and a relatively modest upcharge to be a single for this one. And if you do 2 or more programs in the Kaleidoscope program together, we give you a bit of a reduction. And so you'll find all the details about this, of course, in our brochure. All of our programs on the France Kaleidoscope will include the domestic transportation that you need, of course, the host, the guide, and then lunches and dinner. Generally, we do breakfast and either lunch or dinner daily because with the feedback I've always gotten from these trips is that there's too much to eat often if you try and eat 3 meals a day, particularly with this delicious food in France. For those arriving in directly into Lyon, we'll obviously provide a transfer from the airport directly to the hotel. And for the others, of course, the transportation in between the cities will be included. And as I mentioned, those city cards, which are super handy for getting around Lyon on your 3 days. The only thing excluded, of course, airfare, which we can absolutely help you out on, and any other sites that you may wish to take in that aren't covered by the Lyon City Card, and any other meals and beverages. But otherwise, as usual, with our programs, you're pretty well looked after. There's not a lot you have to dig too deep in your pocket for. Talking finally about airfare, finally flights routes are coming back online again as we hopefully head towards the end of this pandemic. But you can fly into and out of Lyon for generally around $1,000, $1,200, consistent with most larger cities in Europe. And as I say, I think the Montreal-Lyon route is not back on yet, last time I checked, but by the time we head there next year, I'm pretty optimistic. But as I say, there's lots of other ways to get to Lyon. Of course, if you have any questions, and I'm about to do our question and answer session, please do type in your questions either in the chat box, or I can see that some already put questions in the Q&A box. Either way, I will see what they are. So let us know what your questions are, and I will answer those now. First of all, Fran asked, how long is it to get to Geneva? It's a 2-hour ride by TGV. And so although it's not as far away as Paris, Fran, it is, because it's quite a windy, you're heading through the Jura Mountains. So you're heading through sort of like the foothills of the Alps. So, but in 2 hours by TGV, we are in Geneva. So if we head out at 8 in the morning, we'll be there by mid-morning. And similarly, we can be back. If we head out in the late afternoon, we can be back in time for dinner. So it's not too far away. Montreux is, so the other question was, can we go to Montreux? Montreux, for those of you, it is on the other side of Lake Geneva. Possible to do. It's about another hour train ride from there. In theory, you could take a boat from Geneva to Montreux on the other side of Lac Léman, and then take the train ride back through Lausanne, which is, of course, the headquarters of the Olympics. Quite apropos, given those are going on right now. And so it is possible, but I'm more than happy to give you some more information on that when we get to it. Paula, did we get any other questions that might have come in by email at all, or have we pretty much covered everything off today?
No, we have a couple of questions for you
Oh,
as
great.
well. Um, some was someone was asking how widely spoken is English in this region?
Oh, good question. So hmm. If you are in touristy type places, like in the hotel, in restaurants that are more touristy restaurants, you will have no problem speaking English. If you find, and this is what I find generally across most parts of Europe, if you find people that are sort of under the age of 40, they generally speak pretty good English. But you know, there are definitely pockets of France, particularly more rural France, where you'll find people don't actually speak English. They only speak French. So it's time to dust off those school books or bring a phrase book with you just in case. But I've never really found it too much of a challenge. You know, mind you, I speak some French, so I generally try to use my high school French when I'm there. You'll manage to
Perfect.
get by.
Good. Yeah, I found a translate, like a Google Translate app or something has really helped. Although I used to rely on the translation books. Another question we have is, what would you say is the strenuous level for the week in Lyon as well?
Yeah, good question. So this trip is not super strenuous. But like most of our trips, we do a fair bit of walking, and Lyon is very much a walking city. I would call it, we would designate this as moderately strenuous. So, you know, you should be able to have a good solid, you know, walk for 20, 30 minutes without stopping. We will, of course, stop regularly for a break or for a cup of coffee or whatever it happens to be. Lyon, as you may have noticed from the pictures, has a big hill on it. There are some steps up and down, but for the most part, that's pretty much optional. So I would call it moderately strenuous. It's not anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, perfect. And one other question here from Judith is, how many people will be on the trip in this group?
Good question. Yeah, so all of our France Kaleidoscope program, they're designed for generally probably somewhere between 14 and 20 people is what we estimate for this trip. I don't think we'll go with more than 20. But we'll certainly go with as few as sort of 14, maybe even 12, but that would be about the smallest that we would go. I know there's quite a bit of interest for this program. And if it turns out that the trip becomes full, we'll likely put on a second one because again, we do prefer smaller groups. So, but that's about the size that we're looking at. It's optimal when we're doing this kind of culinary adventure because yeah, some of the places that we're going don't even accept large groups. So.
Perfect. That's everything I've had that's come in so far. I apologize that hopefully I didn't miss anything from anyone, but you're always welcome to give me a call or an email as well if something pops up after.
Exactly. Please do give Paul a call if you've got any questions at all. You're welcome to email any of us. We will get right back to you as soon as we can. Next week, we're going to be changing gears again, or sorry, not next week, week after next. We're taking a week off. Well, we're not taking a week off. We have no time to take a week off, but we're taking a week off from webinars. So we will not be having one next week, but the following week, August the 12th, we're going to be presenting one of our newest programs. I'm so excited. So this is our Safari by Land and Sea. We're going to be taking a overland journey around Southern Africa and then finishing off by a week on a mega yacht, like on a small ship, about a 40 passenger vessel, cruising around the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean. So join us for that on August the 12th. In the meantime, thank you so much for being part of our webinar today on Lyon and Burgundy. I hope you'll join us for this trip. France is such an amazing country. I always gain at least 3 or 4 kilos when I go. Yeah, we hope you'll join us, and we'll catch up with you again very, very soon.